Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is having an awesome day. Today, I'm gonna be doing a little sewing tutorial on this lovely dress from the Burda magazine. So it is right here. It's this kind of handkerchief style skirt, silky dress. And so if this is something that you'd like to see, then please stay tuned. So we're gonna start off with machine prep. So first things first, I'm going to load up the machine with a size 70 needle, the smallest that comes in a universal pack. And we'll see if that gets through kind of the silky polyester material okay. If it's giving me trouble, I might switch over to a Microtex needle. And then I'm gonna set up my serger and just make sure it is for the slippery fabric setting. So I'll show you what settings I use. And then lastly, I'm gonna pop on the walking foot just so as the feed dogs are bringing the lower level of fabric through the top layer, just kind of the foot walks along so nothing gets wonky. I find with slippery fabrics, if you're using the right needle, have a walking foot, you will succeed. Things will go way easier than if you use just the regular foot. So we're all set up now. So I'll just show you over here. I just have my machine set up with black thread, a bobbin, my walking foot, and that size 70 needle. And then over on my serger, I have each of the tension threads set at 4. I like a nice even tension. And then over here, I just moved this little knob to be a 0.7, and that's good for slippery fabrics. It just makes the fabric go through a bit nicer, a bit smoother. So the first thing that we have to do is sew some darts. So there are 2 darts on the front bodice and then 1 dart on the back bodice. So I'm gonna pin those and then we'll get sewing. So we have our darts all sewn. So the darts on the back side are vertical darts that we're gonna press towards the center back. So we're gonna press that towards where the zipper is gonna go. And then on the front, we have the 2 darts on the bottom that kind of match the ones we sewed on the back. So we're gonna press those to the center front. And then the bust darts on the side. Over here, we're gonna press those down. You always know you're doing it right if when you press this down, it's hard to see because it's black, it disappears into the side of the fabric, into the pattern piece. So I'm gonna press those, and because I am using like a polyester silky material, I'm gonna start out on the delicate setting of my iron, and if we might work our way up to the wool or eco setting to see how much heat that it can handle, but I would really hate to melt this fabric. So let's press gently and we will see how it goes. All right, now I have the bodice pinned right sides together with the front skirt piece. So each of these were cut on the fold. So I just have that pinned at the waist seam and I'm gonna sew along. And so because this fabric is slippery, I have it pinned at 6 points here, and I'm probably just gonna sew right over the pin so nothing shifts. And I'm gonna make sure, because we are sewing a curve into the straighter edge of the bodice, that there aren't any puckers or ruffles, and really kind of finagle that into place. All right, so now I'm gonna pin a back bodice piece to the back skirt, right sides together. And so the straight edge of the back bodice piece is gonna be aligned with the straight edge of the skirt, because the skirt has one side that has this kind of triangular angle. You just wanna make sure the right sides are matching up. So this is where the zipper is gonna go. So we want a nice flat line for where that zipper will go. I just went to ease in the skirt to the bodice and I was like, oh my gosh, the silky fabric must have like really escaped from me. but I forgot to sew the darts on the bottom skirt on the back pieces. On the front there aren't any darts, but on the back there are. So I'm gonna sew those darts and it's gonna be way more accurate. And so now we're gonna sew up the bodice seam with the skirt seam now that all the darts are sewn and lined up. And now I'm attaching the bodice to the skirt pieces, right sides together, sewing that with a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance on the front and back bodice pieces. And after this, we're gonna serge that edge so it holds up in the wash. All right, so now I serged the edges of each piece. So all the side panels and the back where the zipper goes. And then along the zipper edge, I just put some stay tape just to stabilize it because this is a little bit of a swooshy fabric, which is amazing, but it might give us a little trouble when we go to put in a zipper. So the way I like to do an invisible zipper is to baste the zipper line and then back stitch here and start my regular stitch length all the way to the end of the garment. And then I'll show you the rest. Now I'm gonna back stitch here and then move my machine settings to the longest stitch length, which is a 5 on mine. And we'll just baste the rest of the way up the zip tape. So this pin right here is holding each waist seam together, so I'm just gonna sew over this pin so I make sure that in the back the zipper lines right at that seam. Now I have pressed that center back seam apart and then I've just pinned the zipper along that basted seam and I'm going to baste this in. So now I have that zipper all basted in here and then I'm going to unpick my basting stitches from the right side. It's black, everything's pretty hard to see. So I'll unpick there and then we'll sew the zipper in. I am back after a little ice cream break with my son. So right before we left, I finished up the zipper. I'll give you a close up. Here we are. So the zipper's looking pretty good. We have our waistline matched up nicely here. The darts are matched up. So now it's gonna be to sew together these ties. So there are 4 ties in total. So we're gonna put them right sides together, sew around the edge, turn it inside out, and then gather up this edge. And once that's done, we're gonna pin that to this waisting here. So the waist will be adjustable and you can cinch it in if you want, or tie it looser if you're gonna be going for ice cream, you know? What a convenient place for my little kitty to decide to have a nap. This is Nova. Oh, I don't want to have to ask her to move. And now I'm pressing up the hem of the skirt panels. So I'm pressing it up by about 1 centimeter, and then I'm going to press it up again another centimeter. And then on the sides where the slits are kind of open up the handkerchief skirt, I'm going to press them 1/4 inch, just following the serger seam as my guide, and then press that 1/4 inch over again. So now I am sewing up that hem that I just pressed. So I am doing about 1 centimeter hem on the sides and about 1/4 inch. I understand I use both measurement systems. I'm in Canada, so technically I should use centimeters, but I know on my machine and everything there's 1/4 inch. So I use both. Now we are throwing some gathering stitches in those waist ties, and then we'll gather it up to a 2-inch length. All right, so now I have these little tie fronts pinned on. So I gathered them down to 2 inches, and then I've marked them right in between the waistline and then where that notch was, which was 2 inches above the waist. So I'm gonna baste those in before we stitch up the side seams. So now we're on to the shoulder seams. So I just have those pinned right sides together. And I'm gonna stitch those, overlock them, and press them backwards, and then stitch up the side seams up until this cool little edge here. It's always when you're excited for the end of a project that things go wrong. I was sewing over my pins and of course broke a needle, and I broke a needle into the bobbin case of my sewing machine. So I took the top off. I'm gonna wait till my hubby gets home just to, he's a little more handy with taking things apart and remembering where they go back together, but I guess sewing's on pause until I get that out, because you can hear it. If I turn this, that is not what my sewing machine sounds like. I guess we'd be patient. So last night I sewed these into place. the tie front. So this is actually where I broke my needle into my sewing machine, because I'm using a size 70, but this is a ton of fabric to get through for that tiny needle, especially when it's this kind of polyester. So it's ruffled here into that 2-inch space, and then I just matched up where the notch was here and sewed it right into the waistline. And so yeah, we did that on both sides. And so this is the right side of the dress. It is looking so cute. And so this is the inside of the dress. This is the neckline. So my camera died last night, so I sewed on the facing, right sides together, and then understitched it to the seam allowance and then pressed it to the inside. So I just have to tack these down, hand sew a few stitches in there, and then tack the facing to the zipper, and then the zipper tape to tack the bottom down just so it doesn't flip around. Oh, it is the next day. My hair is wet because I'm gonna take my dog for a walk, and I don't want to curl it first and then go out in the rain. It's raining here where I am today. So I did a try-on of the dress last night after my husband fixed my sewing machine, and it looks so good. I don't want to try it again on camera because the material really frays around the armholes, and I wore it a little bit too much last night because they're unfinished. So my husband says I shouldn't put sleeves on it. So you know what we're gonna do, right? We're gonna put sleeves on it. So I am gonna show you a bit of that process, and we'll finish up this dress. So on the sleeve pieces, I have just folded over the kind of edge that is gonna be the flutter sleeve by 1/4 inch, and then folded it over by 1/4 inch again, and then sewed that with a narrow hem, and then along the hemline of the sleeve as well. Because these are gonna kind of be open and just flowy sleeves and kind of split down the middle, we have to finish that edge so no raw seams are showing, and then I'm hemming them. So I'm gonna do that to the other 3 sleeve pieces. And I ran out of bobbin thread, my least favorite sewing task, and we're filling another one. And then I just placed the sleeve front with the sleeve back and sewed up the seam, and then I overlocked it, and then I'm gonna press it towards the back. So the back piece is the bigger piece. So we're gonna press this backwards. So now we are attaching the sleeves together. So I have the front sleeve pinned over the back sleeve, matching the notch. So this is gonna be where the seam, we attach it to the shoulder seam. So I have the front pinned to the back, and look, it has this lovely little crossover here. I'll zoom out a bit so you can see how it'll just flutter open. So I'm gonna base this across, just across this area. I'm gonna throw in 2 gathering stitches, and we are going to match this up. The sleeves are cute.